What's going on, guys? Joe with Odyssey Off-Road here. So I'm in the garage, hanging out with my little buddy, Odin. He's chilling in the garage with me today. And I'm just doing a couple things on the Grizzly. Took it out for a good shakedown ride yesterday. I got about 100 miles on it. We did about 70 miles yesterday. Love the machine. Couple small gripes about it. A couple of them I'm fixing now. And then one of them is going to be the tires. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you can see I got the dash apart, kind of. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys while I had it apart. In my original walk around video, I told you about the headlight and how I changed the bulb to the LED bulb. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But this is what it looks like in the back there. So you get to the bulb. It's just a rubber boot. Pop that rubber boot off, and then it's just like a little push spring-loaded cap that you push on and twist. And then you unlock it, pull it out, and then the bulb comes out. Stick the new one back in. So that's super easy. But I got this whole thing apart here because I'm adjusting my handlebars a little bit. That was one of the gripes I had yesterday. It could have just been the way the dealer set them out of the box, out of the crate. They were a little bit too upright to the point where when you're sitting on it, I was kind of reaching for the bars. If you're sitting in the saddle here, kind of right in that spot there, my arms were like fully extended the whole time. I like them to be a little bit more relaxed, so I kind of just tilted them back a little bit. And it's just a matter of getting the 4 plastic clips, and then there's a screw for this bottom part that goes into there. So I'm gonna get that. I'll get that back buttoned up, and I'll show you. So took that all apart. I was like about 5 minutes. And I also did another thing which helped with the gap in top of the headlight, and I'll show you that here in a minute too. So let me button this back up, and then we'll go over what I did and how it helped the gap on the headlight pod bezel. So give me 1 second. So I got it all buttoned up, and what I did was I just kind of wanted to adjust the bars back just a little bit. You can only go so much because these factory bars have these little metal like grooves on them that prevent the master cylinders from being moved over enough where you can rotate them. They kind of like lock onto that, and then you wouldn't be able to hit, then your throttle's kind of gonna hit, your throttle hits this, so you can only rotate that back so much. So if you tilt your bars back so much, you're not gonna be able to rotate your throttle up enough to make it where it's comfortable again. And so it's very, but the way it was kind of very straight up and down. I think it's the way they assembled it at the dealer. But quick, easy fix. Took that stuff apart, loosened the bolts, tilted it back just a drop, and then pushed the throttle as far forward as I can. Now it's a little bit more comfortable for me. A lot of guys run the rocks risers and the rocks handlebar setup. To me, you're not getting in height because they're 5-inch risers, and then they use the flat bars. So this is about a 7-inch rise, the stock bars. So you're running about the same height, but the bars are kind of straight instead of that taper where it brings the grips back closer to you, which I like better. So I'm not going to be doing that. And then so let me get to the headlight bezel thing here. So you'll see these brake lines here? See how there's a little impression on it. These brake lines were bolted to the master cylinders, and they were coming out about like that, and they were pressing against the blue plastic. So that was kind of accentuating the issue that it still exists, but it was a little bit worse. It was pushing against this blue plastic and making this bulge even more in the gap. What I did was I just loosened the 12 millimeter, just cracked them loose just a drop, just to kind of pivot it down a little bit, retighten it back up. I did it on both sides, so you can see now all the lines are going through where they're supposed to. They're not pressing against the plastic and forcing it to bulge away. You can see there's a gap there too, and that side was the same way. You can see the mark that was there where it was hitting, and it's still there. The gap's still there. There's only so much you can do, but it's definitely better than it was. So I'll show you guys too. If you didn't watch my initial walk around video, the headlights, I did change the LED headlight there. Let me turn that on, and you'll see I got 115 miles on this thing now. So we put about, I want to say we did about 85 miles yesterday. on this machine. It was great. Rode awesome. So turn the headlights on. You'll see factory headlights come with a yellow halogen bulb up top and then LEDs on the bottom. So I ordered an LED for the top, and now they all match. 6500 is the temp for the LED bulb I ordered. I'll show you which ones I got over here on the workbench. And now they all match. The light is nice and bright, super easy to install. Like I had those plastics off, you really only need to take this front one off. And then you can just do the Phillips screws on the side of the headlight just to tilt it forward, pop the bulb out, pop the new one in, put it back, 2 Phillips screws, and then reassemble the clips. There. That's the other thing too with making sure this sits right is if this isn't put assembled right here, there's a metal bracket and then these kind of sandwiched together, the black part and the blue part. And you want them to be together right between that metal blade in there and then where the clips go in. So that's looking good. That's one thing we did. I'll show you the bulbs I used and I'll talk about the other stuff I did to the machine. So this is the bulb. Again, if you guys missed my initial walk around video of the machine and unveil when I picked it up. They're like Chinese bulbs off Amazon, to be perfectly honest with you. They're like $9, came in a pack of 2. And they work good. Matches perfect. That's the bulb you get, and you get 2 of them. This is the factory bulb. And easy peasy install. Easy mod, like $9. Aesthetically pleasing now. And so I'm happy with it. So that's that. Another thing we did while we're on the handlebars is the grips. You'll see I put ODI grips. I had an extra set of these lying around. I would have bought them anyway, but I had them already. Because I had ordered a set a while ago, and Amazon sent me 2 pairs instead of 1. And they didn't charge me for 2, so I had an extra set. So I had these kind of sitting around. So with the blue, I couldn't use them on other machines, so they've been sitting, and worked out perfect because it matches the blue. So I run these grips on all my machines. We have them on my wife's, have them on my daughter's Raptor, have them on my Raptor, as you know. The only quad that doesn't have them is my son's. He's got Pro Taper pillow tops. And so that's that mod. The other thing we did was, you'll see this hose sitting on the floor. I took that out. I kind of wanted to show you guys. So this, I talked about in my initial walk around, what we were going to do is the AIS delete, which is the air injection system delete. If you guys know about these machines, or if you don't, I'll kind of enlighten you here for a minute. The AIS delete is basically, these machines come with an air injection system, which takes air from the factory air box where your air filter is, and it pumps it into the engine just before the exhaust valve. What that does is it puts a lot of extra oxygen and fresh air into your exhaust system. That in turn, all that extra oxygen in your exhaust system makes the exhaust run significantly hotter. And it helps the catalytic converter and the stock muffler burn off unspent fuel vapor. So you have less emissions coming out the tailpipe. That's obviously all to keep the government happy. But what it does is makes your exhaust run extremely hot. Besides the heat, you'll get a lot of deceleration pop out of the exhaust, like a popping sound, almost like you're running lean, like a lean condition, but it's really just the exhaust lean. Your motor's not running lean, but the exhaust is. So you can just cap it off on one end at the airbox, but I just chose to eliminate this whole hose. And instead of putting a cap, a lot of guys will take this end off the airbox, cap it, put this end back on, so it looks like it's still stock. I don't understand the point of that. Why leave the hose in there? So I took it all off. It's free. I bought a pack of caps from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I'll show you where I capped it. The first end, you're going to take the hose off and cap it as. Now, you don't have to do it the way I did it. Again, you can just cap it at the airbox, and I'll show you where that is in a minute. But I just took the hose off altogether. Just makes more access, too, when you're working on the machine. You take that panel off. That's just one less thing running through. That hose is gone and out of the way, less clutter. But you'll see right here, there's the little air injection pump. You'll see that cap up there, right there, with the clamp on it. That's where the hose goes on one end, and it comes off the motor right there, see? And then that hose goes to this little pump. And then on the other end of the pump, another hose, which is the one we took off, runs to the factory airbox, which is under your seat. And then you'll see that cap right, see if I can get it. All right, see, there it is, right there. See that cap on the right side of the shift rod, right on the front of the airbox there, a little black cap. That is where the other end of the hose goes, and I just put a cap on that. So now the airbox is sealed off. There's no air getting into that pump and going into your motor, into the head by the exhaust valve. There's like a little reed valve on right where that hose goes to the motor, and there's a cover there. There's like a little reed valve that sits behind there where the air goes through. You just leave all that. You don't need to take it off. Then you can just cap the pump. The other way to do this, which would cost you a couple dollars more, is you can buy a block-off plate from Cuervo Racing for the Raptor, which will fit on this motor too. Or the Hunter Works sells a block-off plate. And then you can take that whole plate off the front of the engine and just put a blank plate there without the hose fitting on it. And you leave the reed valve and you just bolt that on. It takes 2 minutes, but then you got to eliminate the pump. It's hanging there. You unplug the pump. Now you have an electrical connector that is exposed that you got to tape up. You know, I did it that way on my Raptor. On this, I said I don't need to do that. This is free, essentially. You spend $2 on a pack of vacuum caps, half-inch vacuum caps, and call it a day. So that's the way I decided to go on this. So that's that. It helped significantly. I can tell you the first ride I went on, about 25, 30 miles, there was definitely noticed the popping on deceleration and coming out of the exhaust. Yesterday we did about 85 miles and significantly cut that back, almost eliminated it. It's still there a little bit, primarily when you're in low gear and you're got the RPMs up and then you back off real quick. You'll get like maybe one little pop, but it's not loud, it's not bad, not nearly as much as the stock, so that really helped a lot. So that was the second thing we did. And then the third thing we did to the machine is, you'll see the front end here looks a lot cleaner, right? I have the front rack off. And there it is sitting over there. I'm saving it, so if I do decide I do need it at some point, I can pop it right back on. It's like 4 bolts. The back part of the rack kind of sits now through here and bolts to the frame there. And then the front, those front extra bars right there for the front of the rack come down. It's a separate piece, and then they come down to here and bolt. And then they just slide up through and come out right here. All right, and then the rack bolts to the fenders too. A lot of people ask, does the fenders wobble now? They do not. They don't move. They are rigid as they were with the rack on. The rack gives the fenders 0 support. Now, before you guys all light me up in the comment section about how if I roll this machine over, my plastics are going to crack and that front rack is going to save my plastics, I'm not worried about that. If I roll the machine, it's going to be a lot more damage for me to worry about, like steering stem, handlebars, controls, stuff like that, than the last thing I'm worried about is the plastics cracking. There's a lot more other issues to worry about, including your own body. If the machine is to have a rollover, then I'm worried about having a cracked fender. These things are super rigid. They're not like a sport quad plastic, so they are going to tend to crack regardless. I'm sure, I know there's people that have said they've been in a rollover and that saved their plastics from cracking, but I don't really think that made all the difference. I think you got lucky. They're going to crack if they're hit right, just because of the rigidity of them alone. That's what's going to cause them to crack. That little front rack, which doesn't even go all the way to the edge, is not going to save your plastics. So that's my opinion. If you want to keep the rack on, by all means, have at it. I had no use for it. It also, in my opinion, makes the front of the machine look a little nicer. I am going to utilize the back rack, which is why it's still there. I'm going to get the factory Yamaha box, which kind of takes the shape of this rack here, and I'll have all the storage I need. And with the front rack not being here, not only does it make it easier to clean and wash, I like to keep my ATV clean. And excuse the noise for a second, the wife's starting up the 4Runner. She's going to pick up the daughter. So it gives, you have access now to all your controls, your battery, your electrical connections, all under here. Now this pops off with the rack, and then you kind of got to tuck it behind and pop it back in. Now it just comes off nice and easy. And then if you take these two pins off, you can even take the front of the hood off as well, and have access to everything under here. Much easier for if you're doing any wiring, if you want to, if you're changing your battery, if you gotta work on your machine, if you're gonna hook up a winch, run the controls up. It makes it much more easy access to everything under there without the front rack on it. Now, if you're using the front rack, great. I mean, that's what it's there for. I'm not going to use it. There's no reason to leave it there. When this makes life a lot easier for me with it not being there. So I took it off. I like the way it looks better too. It's you kind of get that sport 4x4 look in the front, and you still got the utility of the rack in the back. So between that back rack, the box I'm going to put on there, and the storage this thing has, which I'll show you how I'm using it. I have the dry storage here. I have my registration and insurance card and all that stuff in there. And then in the front one, this front one's pretty big. I have a hat in there for when we stop, take a break. I can put a hat on, or like yesterday, we went through the mountains here. Those mountains by my house. You'll see they're covered in snow at the peaks. We kind of drove through the whole mountain range that way, kind of that way, through there, and then out the other side. And there's this town on the other side of the mountain range, and there's like a nice, there's a nice brewery we went to and had lunch. So I have my hat. I can take my helmet off, put my hat on, go in the restaurant. You keep whatever you want in here. There's a ton of storage. You can keep a small jacket if you want. I keep a rag to kind of wipe my goggles down. That doesn't get wet either. I washed it. The way it sits, you have this plastic kind of rises up a little bit, and then there's a little bit of a groove. So kind of, when you close it, now if you forced water in this way, it would probably work its way up and in. But with just the water coming down on it and running out, it stays dry in there. And I haven't noticed any dust either, so that's nice. Then with that and the storage in the back, I keep, right now I have a tow strap, I have a jump box, a battery jump box, and I have a tire plug kit. So tire plugs and the tools to plug a tire. If you were to get a flat, I always carry that. The minimum stuff I carry is a tire plug kit and a jump pack, because those are really some things that happen often. You have dead battery, you got to get it started, or you get a flat. And then I got a little bike tire pump. This thing works great. I bring this with me when we go to the dunes, or if I'm out even on the Raptor, and I stick it in my backpack. And if I'm running low on air, or if a few pumps, and I can add a half a pound or a pound of air pressure. These things only hold 5, so you can pump up that tire fairly easy, believe it or not, with that small bike hand pump. So that's a very convenient thing to carry instead of carrying a big electrical pump, which is also nice too. Once I have the big box on here, I'll probably carry that instead of the hand pump. I bought specifically for when I'm on the Raptor, because if you have the electrical one, you can plug it in here to your DC connection and pump up tires that way. So I'll probably start carrying that one in here, kind of like when the setup I had in my side-by-side. Have some sockets and tools for the trail, and we'll go that route. So storage aplenty, even without the front rack. So I have here a phone mount. Also, some guys were asking about that. This phone mount is a cheapie from Amazon. I don't know how much it was, maybe 20 bucks. But you stick your phone in here, kind of grabs it, locks it in. I have a Pixel 5 or Pixel 6, whatever it is up to now. I don't know. The newest Pixel, whatever that is. That's what I got. It fits in there perfect. And you can fit iPhones and stuff in there. It holds quite a big phone. So we talked about the AIS Elite, the hand grips, all that stuff. Last thing I did was, I just did this a little while ago. From the factory, they run, everything's vented, right? So you got vent lines for the rear diff, vent lines for the engine crankcase, vent line for the front diff. And they run them all up to the front under the hood. The only one they run in a weird spot on this machine is the fuel vent line. So your fuel vent line comes out here, right where the neck of the fuel tank is, runs along, runs here, and then it goes up under the seat, and then right here. So right here it goes up under the seat, and then it comes back down through a it goes into a rollover valve. Rollover valve is right there. I'll show you under the seat. And then from the bottom of the rollover valve, they run the hose. You see how it's there coming out of the bottom of the rollover valve? They'll run it from the factory, and they zip tie it down along the frame, and it's all the way, kind of hangs out all the way here. So guys, I didn't have the issue. I mean, I only have 115 miles on the machine, but guys have had the issue if you're doing a lot of mud and you go through a lot of muck. That end of that hose will get plugged up with dirt and mud. And then you end up with an issue where your machine's stolen, or you have a vapor lock issue because the gas tank is not breathing. And it's because that line is plugged up. So just to eliminate that ever happening, I just rerouted it. Basically, just cut this one zip tie off here, pulled the line up, and then I just stuck it back up onto the seat. So, super easy fix there. And that's it. The machine handled yesterday, like I said, at 85 miles, handled terrific. Super happy with it. I have a couple of gripes with it. Not even a couple, really. The one was the handlebars. I wanted them tilted back just a bit. I already took care of that. But these tires, that's going to be the first thing we get rid of. They're going. The second gripe I have is the exhaust tone. It's like driving a ride-on lawnmower. It sounds horrible. It's like, you know, you got this burly 700 engine in here, and it sounds pitiful. The poor thing with that muzzled muffler on there. So we're going to get rid of that. But the tires are going to be the first thing. One thing I will say about these tires, these Zillas, I know a lot of people are fans of them. The terrain I'm in, as you can see here, just look at my front yard, right? You see how hard packed the ground is? So that type of ground is what I'm dealing with up in the mountains even, or all through the desert here. The terrain changes greatly leaving my house, going through this, where that mountain range is behind me. That's where we ride mostly. But all the trails in the desert around here, I ride as well. And that's a lot of soft, loamy stuff like sandy. And then it'll convert to that hard pack stuff like you see there in my front, on my side yard. And it'll be embedded with rocks, like rocks that are embedded in the ground and don't move. Then you'll go into get to areas of the trails where it's a lot of loose shale and rock, and it stuff's kicking up all over. These tires do not handle well on that hard pack and the rocks. They really deflect quite a bit. What I mean by deflecting is those big lugs, you know, you'll hit the rocks and you can feel them almost like popping off the rocks or bouncing off because there's not as much of a contact patch with the ground, which is more what you need with this, you know, desert type terrain. You want more of a contact patch. You want a little bit more tread on the ground and not these big gigantic voids that you could really fit your whole hand in. These are obviously great for very soft ground and mud, and if you ride in that a lot, these tires will be great, and they will last you. I drove yesterday in that 85 miles. I hit some pavement for about probably a good 12 miles of pavement, blacktop at about 50 miles an hour. So you'll see the tires, the lines from the mold. And this is the center tread. The lines from the mold are still there, even with that pavement riding and that hard pack, rocky terrain. There's no chunks missing. I mean, they held up terrific. I'm going to take these off, probably sell them. If anybody's interested in them and you're close to southern Arizona or Arizona in general, we can meet someplace for a decent price. But shipping them is going to probably not worthwhile to sell them that way, by the time you pay for shipping and the cost to buy the tires. I don't know how beneficial that'll be to you, but, hit me up if you're interested, make me an offer, and then I'll see if we can work something out. So I'm going to take these off rather soon. Probably won't put too many more miles on them. And then we're going to get some, I'm thinking ITP Terracross. The reason I say that is I measured these tires. If you put a level at the top, flat, nice flat level, and then measure up center from the ground up to the bottom of the level, these tires measure at about 26 inches. These are listed as a 27 by 10 on a 14-inch rim. I don't really want to get rid of the 14-inch rims, the stock 14-inch rims, although I prefer a 12-inch rim, just because it's just added cost. I'd rather just get a set of tires and put them on these and make them work. The downside to these factory rims is they're wider than your traditional ATV rim. It's about usually a 7-inch wide rim people run, or from the factory, most of them are. These are 8-inch wide. So if you go with a 9-inch wide tire, they're very common, easy to find. You can go with a, let's say, a 26 by or a 27 by 10 or 11 in the back. Usually it'll come, and then a 27 by 9 for the fronts. It's very difficult to find another 27 by 10. Tusk makes the not the terabyte, the megabytes in a 2710, but I've heard they're very heavy. I don't know how much heavier they are. I got to find some weight numbers and compare the two. That is an option. They're fairly affordable, but they're 8-ply tire, and they're a little more of an they're more of an all-terrain tire, square tire too, not as round. So that's an option in a 27 by 10, but it's very limited in 27 by 10s. You can't. ITP makes the Terracross in a 26 by 10. I know a lot of people really like the tread pattern on those and say they hold up well, and they're a good all-terrain tire. If they run a true 26, then we'll be fine here, because these don't really measure a true 27. They're about 26 inches tall, these Zillas. So I'm thinking about that. I know a lot of guys run the Kenda Bearclaw HTRs. I've heard such mixed reviews that I'm really hesitant to spend $600 and something on a set of tires and hate them. And the reason I say that is because I know traction-wise and all that stuff, they're great. People that like them say. But I've also heard just as many people say they have a bad wobble, or they need to be balanced, or people can never get them balanced 100%, and they still always have a little bit of a shimmy or a shake in the front end when you're at high speed. I do hit pavement on occasion, like I just said to you. I hit some yesterday. I'm not driving with tires that my front end is going to be wobbling and the bars are going to be shaking. I mean, that's just not enjoyable. I'm not spending $600 something on tires, which is what they are. About for a set of 4, which they make 27 by 9.5 14s. They're like $640 shipped. I'm not spending $640 on tires that are going to have a wobble and shake. And then I got to take them off, get them balanced. That adds more cost to them besides the mounting. And now we're up to over $700 for a set of tires that have a wobble. I don't need that. So I want a tire that's going to handle good and not have that issue. I was thinking about Bighorns, but again, the Bighorns I can't find in 27 by 10 or 26 by 10. They make 26 by 11 for the rears, 26 by 9 in the front. I flirted with the idea of a 26 by 11, all 4 corners, but I don't know if that 11 is a true 11 wide, and it's going to be even wider than this. These are a true 10-inch wide. I measured them, sidewall to sidewall. They're 10 inches. So 11 inches, although they would fit, that's just way too wide of a tire up front. Now, if they're listed as 11 and they only measure sidewall to sidewall at 10, if any of you guys got Bighorns that are 26 by 11s on a 14-inch rim, let me know. Or 27 by 11. If you can measure them for me sidewall to sidewall, if they are true 11 inches, or if they measure like 10 inches, that might be an option for me too to consider. Or even like the off-brand ones, like the Tusk Trilobites or like the Sun F on Amazon. A lot of people like those also. I've thought about that type of stuff, but I can't find 100% replacement size. So that's the downfall of these 14-inch wheels with the 8-inch wide rim. Finding a replacement tire is kind of limit your options a little bit. So, worst case scenario, if I'm really not happy with all my options at the end of the day, I'll just sell this whole set and we'll get 12-inch rims and a 26-inch good all-terrain tire. And that then with the 26-inch tire and the 12-inch rim will be a little bit lighter, probably help the bottom end acceleration on the machine as well. Other than that, I mean, the machine's great. The exhaust tone, that's going to be, that needs to be helped out. We'll take care of that. Tire's going to be first, though, because that's handling, and that's the most important thing. And then we'll worry about a little performance. We'll do a slip-on exhaust, HMF, with the HMF optimizer, or maybe a different brand exhaust with EHS fuel optimizer tuner. Not 100% sure which way I'm going to go there yet, but I'm going to adjust the suspension here a little bit now too. The rear suspension felt great. I mean, really soft, plush. The front was good too. I had 2 instances where I felt like I bottomed out the shock when I hit like something with just one wheel, like not if I didn't hit something square with both front tires. There's a couple of instances where I hit like a rut or a rock with just the right front, and it felt like the shock bottomed out. 2 times I felt it. So I'm probably just going to go up one more notch in the front. They're on like the second to softest now. So we'll knock them up one more notch in the front. The back's on the second to softest as well, but that didn't bottom out at all. It felt really, really good. As far as these stock shocks go, at some point down the road, after the things I've already listed, we may do a set of Elka shocks. The benefit, I think, will be just in control over when you're going fast and hitting a lot of a really rough terrain. These things ride very soft and very nice, but they don't recover and then get ready for that next bump quite like a performance shock would, and that's to be expected. But when you're just trail riding and crawling and stuff, like these things it's super plush ride. I mean, I did some jumps with it yesterday. It landed super plush and flat. Nothing big, but if you were just cranking down the trail and hitting some nice whoops, nice big rollers, and getting a little bit of air and jumping the other side, it lands super soft and flat. The bike's got plenty of power. On the way back, when I was over that 100-mile break-in, I gave it the beans a little bit on the way home, and she got up to about 62 miles an hour. Rather easy. I didn't stay in the throttle to see how much further it would go top speed than that, and it was driving really nice. A nice set of tires is really going to make this thing ride a heck of a lot better. So that's going to be the first mod, and then we'll do exhaust and a tuner, and then from there we'll see. Who knows? But that's it for this one. I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on the machine. I really am enjoying it. Handles awesome. Great 4x4 system. Love the kind of on the fly setup. You don't got to be at a full stop. You can just be rolling or crawling really slow and just pop it into 4-wheel drive. Where with some other machines like the Can-Ams, you really got to be at a dead stop to put it in 4x4. It makes all kinds of funky noises. That's it. Thanks for tuning into this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. A couple little tips and tricks I had for you there. And we will see you guys on the next one. Follow us on Instagram, Odyssey_offroad. As you can see right here. Odyssey_offroad on Instagram. Smash that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And get out there and ride safe.